Back here in Nairobi County, Francis Gashuri is on standby, and we want to get an update from him. He is standing by with police spokesman Charles Owino. But right before we hear from the police spokesman, Francis Gashuri, what's the state of affairs on the streets of Nairobi?
Lillian, 38 years ago is the time that Kenyans can experience or can relate to the experiences that we see tonight. I'm at the heart of the city of Nairobi, the Nairobi Central Business District, and it's a ghost town, so to say. The last time Kenyans saw this was during the 1982 coup, 38 years ago, no joke. And quite a number of people may not relate exactly to what a curfew is, because the few times that we've had curfews, especially in some counties due to security-related reasons, quite a number of people may not have experienced that, but Nairobi and the country in general experiencing this. And my namesake Francis Mtalaki in Mombasa was giving us an experience of what people in Mombasa went through, and that is the first place I want to start with. Charles Owino from the National Police Service Commission. Charles, very, very sad scenarios. Please come join me. Very, very sad scenarios we've seen in Mombasa. What would you explain in relation to that?
First of all, I don't come from Police Service Commission. That's my employer.
From the National Police?
I come from the National Police Service.
Correct.
Yes.
Those sad scenarios, those sad pictures that we've seen in Mombasa, police officers beating up, even defenseless women, how would you relate to that?
Gashuri, first of all, we must say that all the incidences are regrettable, and we take it up seriously. But the most important thing is we need to put a balance and gauge on what we really want as a society, because we have a responsibility. This is a serious issue. This is a serious war against a serious disease. And you know very well that this disease has threatened mankind. All of us. It's a disease that can wipe the whole of mankind. And therefore, it's not an easy thing. It's a serious issue. It's a global matter. It's a global disease, and it's affecting all of us. And therefore, it is the responsibility of each and every person to be a keeper of his brother, his sister, and so on and so forth. And therefore, when instructions have been given that we are going to have a curfew, it must be followed. For example, even what we are doing now is wrong. You're not supposed to be here. You're supposed to be in your office. Your office is the studio, not on the street. And therefore, I put it very, very strongly that we must come up with a balance. What happened in Mombasa was not very good. First of all, it shows greatest disregard to the rule of law. Total indiscipline. In both cases, from the civilians and from the police officers? Just listen. It's total indiscipline. You know, in my community where I come from, we say, in my mother tongue, that you abuse the mongoose and you abuse the chicken. Because you say, why has the mongoose come for my chicken? And why has the chicken left a well-guarded home and have gone to the bush? The position is very clear. That, first of all, we must be concerned about the rule of law and regard to the rule of law. What members of the public did was totally wrong. Because what happened is that they were expected to keep a reasonable social distance, not even what we have between you and I. And in this reasonable social distance is there to protect them. They refused to take the cue. They refused to follow instructions. And instead what they did, they decided to break people's cars and throw stones. Throw stones at people's cars, throw stones at policemen, which is not appropriate. But all the same, the policemen also ought to have some form of restraint. If you are provoked, we are properly trained that if you are provoked, you are supposed to have some form of restraint. So what we are going to do as a service is to find out, is to strike a balance and find out where the mistake was. But first of all, I have to particularly blame members of the public, because they know we are protecting life, we are protecting health of each and every person. And instructions must be adhered to. We know very well, yes, there was a rush at the ferry. The ferry is quite delicate, not only in terms of disease, but also in terms of security of the ferry itself.
But Charles, you ended up achieving the exact opposite in terms of social distancing. I mean, there are people who have gone home tonight injured, helpless women and so on and so forth. So what are the instructions that the police officers have from now henceforth to deal with the public?
Surely we must not run away from our problems. This is our society, this is our country, this is our health. And therefore we must start with our personal discipline on what we do. We don't need to take excuses and run up and down and try try blaming the police for what they have done. Yes, I know it is not right. Yes, I know they were provoked beyond a certain level. But as a service, we would always have said it is regrettable, and we'll always take the appropriate action against individual police officers if they go beyond their excesses. But first of all, before we reach that level, before we start dealing with the police, we must first of all ask ourselves, are we doing the right thing?
Okay.
There are clear instructions that we have a curfew. And the reason why we have a curfew is to ensure that we manage this situation appropriately. Because, for example, today is a Friday. And as a Friday, we know how we socialize. People going to bars, people going to places, you get drunk, you get out of your mind. And therefore, when you catch the disease, you transmit it back to your family, you take it to your children. And you know the level of our economy, you know the level of our preparedness. We must understand the situation at which we are as a country. Ask yourself one question. If New York is having a problem, if Italy is having a problem, these are first world countries with all the facilities and so on. The best that we can do to ourselves as a nation is to ensure that we support ourselves to ensure that the issue of spreading of the disease is minimized.
Charles, yes. The curfew is indefinite. No one knows the exact time it will end. The ferry will be there tomorrow. People will need to travel tomorrow. There are people who are coming to the city center and other urban areas. What instructions do the police officers have in terms of relating with the public, and especially when there seems to be near that time to the 7 p.m. deadline?
What I want you to do, Gashuri, before we come to the police, I want you to ask citizens to understand that it's about our health. It's about our country. We can get wiped out. First of all, let us understand that. And let us be law-abiding citizens. Let us not behave like children. Let us be adults and let us be law-abiding citizens and show good example. The purpose of the police is simply to enforce the laws and the regulations of the land. So before we come to the police, first of all, talk to the people. Tell them to take care of themselves. Tell them to be disciplined. Let us first of all ensure that we know very well we have to keep social distance. We know very well we are going to the ferry. We must queue. We must keep appropriate distance. And then we get to our ferry.
Charles, the people I will talk to the police.
The police have talked to the police and they know. These are well-trained officers. They know the limits that they have. But you see, the way I'm trained, when you become rioters, I have procedures. One of the procedures is I'll read a proclamation for you. If you don't listen to that proclamation, I'll even use a tear gas. And there's a level I'm even allowed to use my baton. You know, it's not good to lie to someone. It's good to tell someone the truth. I'm saying we are not supposed to do wrong things as policemen. And I've said it is regrettable on probably what has taken place. But it starts with us, you and I. Okay. Remember, I'm only a policeman in uniform. Beyond this, I'm a civilian. And I must undertake the regulations. Even for me now, I'll go back to my house and ensure that I'm at home with my children and ensure that I follow regulations. So Gashuri, my take is simple. Before we go to the policeman, let Kenyans be law-abiding citizens. Let us not allow to be indisciplined so that we don't put also the policemen at risk of trying to protect us using force.
Last question, Charles, because some people will find themselves on the road before 7 or just about 7 p.m.
Yes.
What happens to such people?
We must plan ourselves. We must understand that the curfew starts at 7 and ends at 5. And therefore, it is appropriate that you plan yourself. If you are an employer, you plan for your team. And you know there are those institutions that have been exempted. But the exemption does not mean that you become careless. The exemption means that if you are a manufacturing company, let's say you are distributing products to the supermarket, you are distributing or you are working in a chemist and so on, owners of these chemists must ensure that they take appropriate solutions. They get appropriate solutions to the problems. You ensure that you can drop your workers, you can pick your workers, just to make them safe.
Will you arrest people? Will you take them to custody? And which custody, the numbers, and which courts are you going to take them to?
Let me tell you, we have enough cells. So I'll not lie to any Kenyan that you can walk at night and we will leave you, we'll arrest you. We'll take you to custody, we have many cells. If the cell in Central can only accommodate 30 and it is full, we'll take you to Kayole. If it is full, we'll even take you to Machakos, even to Kajiado. That is our position. So there's no shortcut. The position is simple. we are safeguarding ourselves.
Right.
The war we have is war between us and the disease.
Thank you very much, Charles.
Yes.
Lillian, that's the situation that we are in Nairobi. And please, spokesman Charles Owino, giving us what the details are in terms of how the police intend to deal with the curfew from tonight moving forward. Very tough times here, Lillian. Let's see what happens elsewhere across the country. Back to you in studio.